As a singer, there is nothing worse than losing your voice. And I often get calls and texts from artists, singers saying, help, I've lost my voice. I'm meant to have a gig. What do I do to get my voice back? So today, I want to share some tips on how you can get your voice back, avoid losing your voice, and just give you some information on what is going on when you actually lose your voice. So the first thing we want to talk about is what is happening when you lose your voice. Now, often what happens is the vocal folds that make the sound, that vibrate to make a sound wave, will become inflamed and they can't actually close properly. So when they can't close properly, because that's how they make sound, then you find you don't have any voice or you cannot use your voice effectively because of that inflammation or swelling. Another cause for voice loss is when you actually have so much muscle tension in the areas that are surrounding your larynx that it can cause so much tension that your voice doesn't function properly. So what actually caused this inflammation? What caused you to lose your voice? One of the things that definitely is a key player is any kind of upper respiratory tract infection. So bronchitis, sinusitis, laryngitis. And laryngitis is a bit of a weird one because it can actually come on from misuse, overuse, any kind of vocal fatigue, as well as viral and bacterial infection. Things like seasonal allergies, which I suffer from like crazy, hay fever, dust allergies, anything that overstimulates the production of mucus might cause some postnasal drip and cause you to want to clear your throat all the time. And that constant throat clearing or excessive throat clearing is essentially like your two sides of the vocal folds smashing together, and they get a little bit tired, they get a bit inflamed, and they may even get bruised, and in turn that will stop you from being able to use your voice effectively. Last but not least, any kind of overuse or poor vocal technique can also cause you to lose your voice. And that's not just singing, that is also with speaking. The last couple of years, I've predominantly focused on my speaking voice. It's the same instrument, but with a slightly different application. And you're essentially taking a singing technique and applying it to your speaking technique, and making sure that as you're speaking and you're singing, you're not overusing or abusing your voice and not causing any ongoing or more persistent issues that can happen, like nodules or any kind of voice issue. Now, let me preface this by saying singers are athletes, and like any other athlete, muscles sometimes experience trauma. This doesn't mean that you have bad technique, but it's a great opportunity for you to check in with your technique and certainly all of your daily vocal care habits to make sure that you're laying a really solid foundation for your voice and making sure that there aren't any opportunities for vocal trauma, vocal fatigue, overuse, or technique issues to present themselves. Now, let me give you a little disclaimer here. I am not a doctor. I am a vocal coach and a professional singer. I have been singing for 35 years plus, and everything that I share with you are tips that I've researched, that I've used myself, and through my experience as a professional singer. However, you always want to consult your medical professional first. Listen to what they have to say, as they know you and the bigger picture of your overall health and can point you in the right direction, and make sure that anything that you do when it comes to looking after your voice is really relative and specific to you. So your physician, your GP, can help you to find a laryngologist or an ENT, but ideally a laryngologist that has some experience with singing or high voice use cases, and they can have a look with a scope and see what's going on the inside, and be sure that there isn't a physiological or some other kind of reason, a tension-based reason for you losing your voice, but they will be able to guide you in the right direction with information that you can share with your vocal coach, a speech pathologist, or anyone that is part of your vocal care team. So bottom line, try out some of these tips that I'm going to share with you today, but use caution, check in with your medical professional, and do what's right for you. So here are my best tips for how to get your voice back. Number one, like I said, check in with your medical professional and get yourself a vocal health checkup, whether that's through your GP for a general checkup, or if you need a referral to a specialist like a laryngologist to have a scope that can give you more information about what your vocal health baseline is, almost like a vocal warrant of fitness if you are feeling well, but certainly if you're having ongoing voice issues, and that's something that lasts for more than 48 hours or is recurring, definitely start off by getting that vocal health checkup. So my next tip for helping you to get your voice back is a little bit preventative. I want you to avoid any voice problems in the first place. Making sure you're caring for your voice on a daily basis and getting some vocal coaching to get some solid techniques in your Singer's Technique Toolkit to help you with speaking and singing so that you are looking after your voice and using it in the most efficient and effective way possible. And I have a vocal health tips for singers guide that you can have that will outline a little bit more in depth some of the tips that I'm going to give to you today. My next tip is to take vocal rest. So if you have lost your voice, sometimes it can be super challenging because you might have a gig coming up and you're thinking, what can I do to get my voice back so that I can actually do this gig? As a vocal coach and a singer, first step, please don't sing. The bottom line is, and my only rule at all, is if it hurts, don't do it. So whilst it can be really devastating to miss out on gigs, taking vocal rest and letting your voice recover will actually be the best plan for your voice long term so that you're not singing whilst your voice isn't exactly at its best and potentially damaging for longer term and having a longer vocal rehab period. The next tip that I have on my list is to hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. I cannot say this enough because our beautiful vocal folds have a mucosal layer that really loves being well hydrated. Now, you can start from the inside out with your nutrition and certainly by how much water you're taking in each day. I have a formula that you can use to figure out the exact amount of water that you need each day. Now, it's a little on the high end because like I said, singers are athletes in my mind and this is an athlete's formula. You may get some of this hydration from your nutrition if you're eating a diet that's filled with food that has a lot of water content in it, vegetables, fruit. But if not, aim for this amount each day, and this formula is 0.03 times your body weight in kilos, which equals the amount that you need to drink each day in liters. So you can aim towards that. And topical hydration is about steaming your voice. Now you can do this in a number of ways, but I've got a video showing you how I use my favorite personal vocal steamer, and I'll pop a link to show you that there. Another thing that you can do when you're trying to get your voice back is you can treat safely with natural remedies. As with any medication, you want to do your research and make sure that this natural remedy is good for you. But again, like I said, these I know to work for me. One of my favorite natural remedies is tea, licorice tea in particular, also ginger tea as well. You just need to be mindful if you have any digestive issues that they don't aggravate. Ginger is great for digestive issues, but sometimes licorice tea or excessive consumption of it can make you, let's say, go to the bathroom a little bit more frequently. And while it's great for your voice because it has awesome anti-inflammatory and antibacterial properties, you do want to be mindful on the entire big picture of your body and how any of these natural remedies might impact you. The same with drinking water. You've got to be careful to not overwhelm your bladder and think of your body as a whole, and that's where things like topical hydration comes in super handy. I also love manuka honey as a great natural remedy, either just like a whole teaspoon in the mouth as often as you need it, or in that tea that we mentioned, either the ginger or the licorice tea, and that also has similar properties to any kind of throat coat singer's tea. There are other ingredients that are in that, like marshmallow root, that will be antibacterial and anti-inflammatory as well, and so combining those natural remedies is a great start to help you to get your voice back. From a preventative perspective, you can also add in things like vitamin C, echinacea, garlic supplements to support your immunity, and that's a good thing to do every day. Another thing you can do to help get your voice back is salt gargle. You take a teaspoon of salt in a cup of warm water, stir it up, and gargle for 30 seconds. It's great for moisturizing your throat and your mouth as well. And because these are natural remedies, these are things that you can utilize all the time. Another thing I like to do when I'm not feeling well is a sinus rinse or nasal irrigation. And that involves using a saline solution and squirting it up one nostril, flushing out whatever's in there, and then the same on the other side. Now, this is something that you want to be mindful of doing too often. Because I have really bad hay fever in conjunction with steaming, I will do it when I'm a little bit blocked up, like now my hay fever is out of control, my allergies, And that will just give me a little bit of relief and get rid of any allergens that have made their way into my sinuses. And so you can use something like that to help as well as part of your hydration toolkit. Now, when you're trying to get your voice back, there are a couple of things I would like you to try to avoid. The first thing is consuming too much caffeine. Now, I know because I drink so much coffee every day that sometimes it can be more stressful to your system to pull this stuff out. So if that's the case and you need your cup of coffee, because look, I know it, I feel it, I understand you, what I want you to do is match 1 glass per cup of coffee in addition to your hydration formula for the day. The next thing I want you to avoid is using any throat or nasal sprays that have a numbing effect. Why this is important is that because it numbs, it takes the pain away. And if you think, oh, I'm feeling heaps better, you may not be 100% ready to sing again, or you take these as a remedy, you sing through the pain and do further damage to your voice. So I want you to be really mindful, and remember you've got things like a salt gargle, you've got natural nasal sprays, just a saline spray or your nasal irrigation, and you can utilize these tools to help clear out any excess mucus without numbing and still enabling you to feel what's going on. The next thing I want you to avoid when you're trying to get your voice back is overly spicy or acidic foods. Why this is because this can cause some kind of reflux that will then cause acid to move its way back up your esophagus and way too close to your vocal folds. When they're in recovery mode, the last thing you want to do is add any kind of trauma to the vocal folds in the way of acid reflux going on to them. So those are a lot of great tips about resting and giving your voice a little bit of TLC to help you get your voice back. Now, one thing that I do think is really important, whilst I don't want you to sing until you're feeling fully recovered, I do think it's important that you do a stretch for your voice throughout your vocal rehab or vocal recovery. And you can do this in the form of a really gentle siren. I'll link you to a demonstration where I'm showing you exactly how to do it. And it's essentially a wake up or a stretch for your voice. This is something you should be doing every single day anyway, as part of your daily vocal care habits, but important to really allow your voice to stretch without putting any weighting on it whilst you're recovering. Another thing that you can do to help you with the stretch for your voice or vocal rehab is to allow your larynx to really relax. When we're talking, singing, our larynx is attached to ligaments and it's just doing this all the time. It's moving up, up, up. A lot of tension happens and we sometimes don't get an opportunity to let our larynx completely relax. How you do this is with sobbing, or if you want to do it in a happier way, think of Santa Claus, but we don't want to be projecting. So we want to go in a sob. And feeling your larynx really lower. You can put 3 fingers here, just in the crease there, and you can feel when you're talking the position of your larynx. You feel like a little bump. And what I want you to do is to sob and feel that larynx drop right down almost to the bottom finger. Now, depending on where your larynx likes to live every day, might be harder to feel that, but that exercise, either sobbing or Santa Claus, can help you to lower your larynx and gives a great stretch and a release for the larynx and the muscles and ligaments that support it, as well as adding the siren, which is the stretch for your vocal folds themselves. You can also do laryngeal massage or go and see someone like a vocal physiotherapist who can massage your larynx. In a nutshell, what you're doing is a similar thing to the sob, but you're manipulating it with your fingers, just taking a C shape from the top and gently pulling down, letting your jaw relax, and just giving the area around your larynx a good massage. You can do a stretch for your neck as well, and that takes care of removing any tension in those surrounding muscles, just in case that has become a little bit of a problem as well, or is the main contributing factor to you not having your voice. Last but not least, I really want you to check in with any medications that you might be taking to see if they themselves have triggered you to lose your voice. I have worked with a number of students who have actually lost their voice, vocal dysphonia, for 2 weeks from using things like inhalers simply without a spacer. So there's always a workaround because, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to tell you to stop taking any medications that have been prescribed for you, but I want you to share the information. If you're a high voice user, a professional singer, share that with your doctor and say, look, I feel like my asthma inhaler might be impacting my voice because every time I take it, I get this taste in my mouth, whatever the symptoms are, or I lose my voice. They might say, hey, well, look, it's as simple as using a spacer so that the particles of the medication aren't going directly onto your vocal folds and having a direct effect on them. So there's always a workaround, or there might be an alternative medication. But if you are a high voice user, a professional singer, a teacher, or anyone who uses their voice as part of their profession, it can be a good consideration or a good conversation to have with your doctor if you find that you're losing your voice regularly. It's something that I would love you to check in with. If you've made it all the way to the end, great job. Let me know if you found any of these tips helpful by commenting below. Hit the like, the subscribe and the notifications bell so that you can be the first to find out when I pop up any new videos, singing tutorials, tips, and anything that helps you to feel confident as a singer.